Adventures. My name is Mary and I'm the co-owner of 2 Foot Adventures, an ultralight backpacking store along the Pacific Crest Trail. In today's video, I'm going to be going over how I pack my backpack. You'll be able to join us for later videos on more detail about what is in my backpack, but today is just going to be how I pack my backpack and why I pack it in this way. So the majority of the time on the Pacific Crest Trail, the weather is pretty darn good. So that means we're not having a lot of rain or a lot of snow. So that will be the way I'm focusing on today, but I'm going to comment a little bit about what I do differently when it is raining. So for the normal days when it's bright and sunny like today, very dry because so much of the West Coast is deserty. Even if it's not desert, it still is pretty dry. I take my sleeping bag and I have my sleeping stuff in it and I just put it directly in the bottom of my bag. Now I do carry a dry bag to put my sleeping bag in so that on those rainy days, like if I wake up and I'm like, oh, things are feeling pretty wet, or if I already know it's going to rain, I would put my sleeping bag in the dry sack. But when I don't use it, I just put my dry sack right in the bottom. And then I poke my sleeping bag in feet first. This helps to optimize the space in the backpack by not having like a cylinder or a square or some other odd shape. So when I put it directly in, then my sleeping bag is able to fill up all the space in the backpack. And it also just saves time in the morning. Frequently you'll be getting up really early and the goal is to get out of camp as fast as possible to hike your miles before it gets too hot, especially when you start the trail. So that's part of it too, is just optimizing your pack up time. So I put my sleeping bag in the bottom. The next thing I do is I put my sleeping mat, and I don't take a lot of time and roll it up so that it's all pretty and fits back in its stuff sack. I simply just take it, usually fold it in half, and then fold it into a few other pieces, and then it kind of serves as a floor to go down to keep my sleeping bag clean and separate. So I've got my sleeping pad in there. Now, if I wasn't in the Sierra, then I would put my tent in next. But with my bear canister, things are a little bit different. I just got back from a trip in the Sierra, so I have my bear canister. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and pack it with the bear canister. So the next thing I do is I put my bear canister in, and I go ahead and I smash everything down just a little bit more. That allows me to get a little bit more space in here. So I'll take my tent, and since I'm using a Cuban shelter, I like to keep it inside to keep it really protected from any kind of branches or shrubs. So I put it off to one side. Usually, then I've still got enough space to put my few clothes, minus this, in my backpack here. One of the tricks I've learned when packing with a bear canister is the bag that I want to use for the waterproofing. Sometimes I'll just empty it out and put the bag in here so I can use my hand to shove down around it. And then that way I can kind of just poke everything in it, as opposed to having a big cylinder I've got to compress into just the right shape. So when it's mostly empty, I can put it in here. Okay, so some people have asked me, don't you put the heavier stuff down towards the bottom? And ideally you want to put your heavy food bag, which is usually, or your food, which is usually the heaviest thing in your backpack, you really want that to be around the middle to the upper part of the backpack. You don't want to put it at the very top, then you feel top heavy and you kind of rock back and forth as you walk. But if you can get it either standing up straight right behind your back, you don't want to put it out here, you want to put it as close to you as possible. So I like to use the analogy, if you've ever carried a kid on your back, when the kid is really close to you and hugging you, it's a lot easier to carry them than when they're back here just basically holding onto your shoulders and they're back here having a party. Then you're like, whoa, whoa, come forward. So that being away from your body creates a lot of torque, which pulls back on you, which is then going to make your shoulders and your collarbones here be a lot more sore. And if it's too low, it's also going to kind of be pulling down on you. So the ideal spot is going to be right against your back in the top half of your backpack. So that's why I put my bear canister there. Or if I didn't have a bear canister, I personally use an op sack for my food, and I stand that up right against my back as well and put my things around it. So the other things that I put inside my pack sometimes are my electronics. I don't have very many electronics, but I do put them inside unless I'm charging my battery for my battery pack, and then I'll just take that out. Everything else I just put in here along the edge of my bear canister. I know most hikers use smart water bottles. I still use a platypus. I like to drink every few minutes. I sip my water. I'm not very good at cameling up. So I take my water bladder. I actually lay it right across the top here, so there's nothing else on top. If it is hot, I will sometimes take and put a piece of clothing on top of that, and it actually will insulate the water and keep it a little bit cooler longer. So that can be really helpful if it's super hot out. So with that, I just throw my hydration tube out the side. I barely turn this over, and then go ahead and close the top, put my Y strap across, and then for the outside pocket, there's a lot of stuff. I love my outside pocket. So before I pack that, I'm going to pack my two side pockets. For me, I use this little cup, and in it has my stove, which is a BRS 3000, and then my fuel canister. And these I just shove down here in the side. You can see I've got my cooler right here. Usually, and just missing from this is my pea style. I've already taken it out to use it in my truck. Usually my pea style stands up right here, and I've got my cooler cloth. That's for the ladies. Then, so that I don't have to get into my backpack during the day except for to do the water, then I keep my food bag. So everything I'm going to eat from the time I leave camp until the time I get back into camp is in usually a gallon Ziploc bag, and sometimes it's almost overflowing. And I put it in my other side pocket over here. And I keep my spoon or my spork, I usually keep it in that bag as well. In the front pockets, I'll keep my wallet in one side and put my solar panel over the top. You can see I've got my Garmin, my phone will go here. In this other pocket, I usually have my lip balm. I have an extra cap for my water bladder, so at night I can take the hose off if I need to or want to. I keep an extra lighter, usually is here, my pocket knife, and my headlamp. So all that goes right up here, and I'll leave that there. Then in the back is everything else. So for me, I use the Sawyer squeeze, and I know a lot of you will, you don't carry the back flusher for the Sawyer squeeze, and you use the cleaning coupler with the smart water bottles, and that's great, but you see I don't have a smart water bottle, and I personally think that the extra compression you can get on this to clean your filter will help your filter to last a little longer. So I carry things that I don't need all the time, I put at the bottom. And actually these are my waterproof rain mitts because I just came out of the mountains. It was pretty chilly and a little rainy, so I had these out. If I was hiking through a long section where I knew it was going to be dry and I packed it up just like this, I'd put my rain mittens in the bottom of my backpack because no need to have them out here taking up valuable space. My bug net's kind of the same thing. I carry a bug net all the time because sometimes there's just those little annoying gnats, and I like to just be able to pull it out. It weighs very, very little, and it's sometime on your hike you're probably going to want one. So I keep that there. My massage ball, which is a urology ball. If I do need some sort of physical therapy on the trail, usually I can address it with a ball. So I carry the urology balls because they're the lightest on the market. And I have my first aid kit. I like that to be really accessible in case there's an event that I need it. I like to be able to point somebody right to it. So if I'm bleeding or something like that, then having it in the outside pocket allows it to be very accessible for myself or somebody else in an emergency. This is my footprint for my tent. If it's wet, no big deal. Shove it in out here. My tent stakes, I only need them when I'm in camp, so usually I just put them in here horizontally or on one of the sides, but I prefer horizontally, so even if I have a hole in my stake bag, then one of the stakes can't accidentally fall through it and fall out. My extra water carry, sometimes when you need to carry a lot of water through the desert, if you have a dry section, then I like to have the extra, and because I have a bladder, I have a backup one that's compatible with my drinking hose, so if I get a hole. And then my dirty water bag, my Sawyer, I keep it in a bag so that at night when it's cold, I can just put it in my sleeping bag. And so I've just decided to keep it in there. And then the other good thing is the O-ring in the back, you're less likely to lose it if it's in a Ziploc bag. So there's my Sawyer. I keep a couple of towels. We'll go over that in the more detailed video about why I carry them. This is my toilet kit, and so keep it in there. Want it to be extra dry in case it's pouring rain. The last thing I want is wet, soggy toilet paper. And definitely when it's really cold or really rainy, I keep my rain gear in the outside pocket. So I've got that there. Map. I was just out in the Cottonwood Lakes area around Mount Whitney and so forth, so I've got my map. And the last two things to go in here, this is my rehydration container. So this is essentially what I eat out of: breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinking. It's really cool because it's got this double insulation for a lot of it. And then you can open it up. It's a lot of food. It's hard for me to finish this whole thing, and I eat a lot of food. The lid I just keep in here, and then when I'm eating, it's all self-contained like this. So this is 750 milliliters. It is a good hungry hiker meal. And then I can just put it back together. I don't almost never even take the lid out. And so I can cold soak in this, or I can put hot water and then walk for a while or sit in camp. And it keeps, even when it's really cold outside, it keeps stuff hot for probably at least an hour, maybe even longer. It definitely will keep it warm. It'll keep it warm for hours. So, and I just put it right back here and put this over it. And then my hat, I love this hat because it does fold down so nicely. So if it's chilly or if it's maybe in the morning, the sun isn't up, then I don't necessarily need it out. And so I can stow it very, very easily in my pack. Otherwise, it's got a really nice brim and a nice back to it. And so I've been hiking this specific hat. You can see it's got some wear on it since 2015. It has been so many places and I love it, and it still is going strong for me. So there you have it. There is everything in my backpack. And it didn't take me very long to pack this all up. I know where everything goes. I pack it the same every day. It makes it super easy. I put my solar panel here across the top. And with that, I'm ready to walk. So I hope you enjoyed the video on how I pack my backpack and why I pack it this way. I guess one of the things I didn't mention is the reason I put my sleeping bag and everything at the very bottom is because when you get to camp, all I have to do is pull out my tent and set that up, and then I can put my backpack inside and I can unpack everything else. So when it's raining, I don't have my gear everywhere. Everything is still nicely contained in my backpack. And even if it's really windy, I like to just put everything in my backpack. It keeps all your gear clean when you don't pull it out and just spread it out over the ground or drop it in the dirt. So that's part of the reason. The logic is the first thing I take out of my backpack, essentially excluding my bear canister or my food bag, I take that out. But everything else when I pull it out is in the order that I need to make my camp. So my tent, and below that is my sleeping pad, and then below that is my sleeping bag. So If you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more videos from us here at 2 Foot Adventures, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell down there and let us know that you like this video, that you want to see more, and leave us a comment too. And in the meantime, we hope you enjoy all your trails and all your backpacking. We look forward to seeing you in one of our stores. Thanks and have a great day. Happy trails.